Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifene, the great Malabite. Good morning.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Mr. Ifene.
You are wicked. You had to draw a connection, connect the dots between Rufai, Rotus, and Don Jazzy. Why? I thought you would just stop at Don Jazzy again, and you just ended there.
He's now a richer man, he has no excuse.
Just like Rufai and Rotus.
Rufai has no excuse.
They don't have any excuse. Rufai will leave it there.
Many women have been trying to marry Don Jazzy.
Yeah.
One of these days, one will get lucky and succeed.
Well,
No, don't worry.
He said it was Rihanna, but Rihanna is gone now. So.
Mr. Ifene,
yes.
They will soon start paying unemployment benefit. Don't worry. We'll surprise you.
No, Rufai, well, we your friends, we may just take laws into our hands and do something.
It's unemployment benefit I want to use to buy.
Okay. Well, we'll start there.
By the way, the daughter of Kenya's president, Charlie Ruto, is looking for a husband.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. So
How much is the unemployment benefit?
you guys
Well,
you are different directions.
Well, let's just go straight to this very serious business we have this morning.
Okay.
What is in Sokoto? He has not picked that one. You are sending him to Sokoto. Well, we start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. We'll start with the story above the masthead. Federal government last-ditch effort to stop labor fails as Ajero insists. Nationwide rally kicks off today. Police on red alert as IGP orders deployment. Threatens proportional force with troublemakers. Yes, and of course, civil society leaders back action by NLC. Well, labor going on with the protest, which they have planned over the next 2 days. And the federal government to see how they could ward off that protest with the meeting they had with labor yesterday and late into the night. But apparently, they couldn't reach an agreement. But we know that labor is actually talking about implementation of an MOU reached between government and labor in the wake of the fuel subsidy removal, the palliatives and measures government promised to put in place to ameliorate the sufferings of workers. But if government has not kept to its side of the bargain, then you won't blame labor for insisting on going on this protest. And of course, protest is a right in a democratic setting. And labor, cashing in on that right, are going to make their voice heard over their displeasure with the federal government of Nigeria under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We urge the police, like we've done the last couple of days, to ensure that hoodlums don't come and take advantage. And that is the duty of the police, to ensure law and order in the land. Now, if we look at the lead story, to cut cost of governance, Federal Executive Council okays immediate implementation of Oronsaye report. Tinubu constitutes a Kume-led committee with 12-week ultimatum to ensure actualization of approvals. Agencies, departments merged, subsumed, scrapped, include NACA, NEMA, NASENI, NEPC, Nomadic Education Commission, Servicom, NDPHC, ICRC, VON. Government says exercise will not translate to job losses to pay youth unemployment benefits. Set up consumer credit program. Well, if nobody will lose their jobs, where is the cost cutting going to come from? Because there's likely to be duplication of function when you merge agencies with similar functions. But the government is saying nobody is going to lose his or her job. I'm sure that will gladden the hearts of those who work in this agency marked for merger and for scrapping, which means they will get to work somewhere else. But if we look at how The Guardian is reporting this story, and we'll discuss further, The Guardian newspaper, after bloated cabinet, Tinubu okays Oronsaye report, merger of MGAs. Rufa, it's like you and the Guardian editor, you are thinking alike.
Abi?
Yes, because the point has to be made that the cabinet of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a bloated one, and that has been said over and again. And now the Guardian newspaper is reflecting that on its headlines that, yes, when we talk about cost-cutting measures, this government started on a bloated note. And as such, well, if it's now resorting to the Oronsaye report to cut costs, well, you want to say so be it. But like you rightly mentioned, Rufai, as at the time Oronsaye report was submitted, there were 541 MDAs to be cut to about 220. But between then and now, the number of ministries, departments, and agencies have since doubled, right?
Yes.
Aha. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari set up 2 committees to look at the Oronsaye report with a view to implementing. Will this government be also looking at that, what the committee set up by President Muhammadu Buhari did in implementation? I want to believe that they'll be taking a look at it. But what can be said of this effort is that the committee led by Akume is to implement, not to look at the report and recommend again. Because it is often said in government circles, when you don't want to solve a problem, you just set up committees. But this committee has a mandate to implement and a timeline, 12 weeks, whether they'll be able to carry out this assignment in 12 weeks, because a number of these agencies are creations of law. You don't just scrap by word of mouth. Perhaps that will be a sticking point, but the government has to find a way around it, working with the legislature, if they are to achieve this cost-cutting measure within 3 months, 12 weeks, according to the report. The drive for lean administration, this government has started after starting on a bloated note. Now, the Punch newspaper also reporting this story. 12 years after Tinubu adopts Oronsaye report, merges agency. Tinubu orders SGF panel to implement mergers in 12 weeks. Minister rules out job losses. Now, above the masthead, police deploy anti-riot squad as NLC holds protest today. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, Tinubu approves Oronsaye report implementation. Federal government okays agencies merger scrapping. The story beside the masthead of the Daily Sun newspaper, terrorism trial court fixes March 19 for ruling on Kanu bail application. Yes, IPOB reiterates rejection of further court trial, insists on unconditional release. Referendum. Well, the issue of bail for Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, resurfaced in court yesterday. And March 19 has been fixed for ruling on that matter. Now, below the photograph on front page of Daily Sun, Nigerian can't walk without Southeast. Shetima declares in Enugu, commissions geometric power plant. Governors zone 6 steady energy supply for economic leap. Yes, geometric power owned by Professor Bat Naji. Private power initiative has come on stream, and many still wonder if Professor Bat Naji had remained as Minister of Power under the Jonathan administration, perhaps things would have been different. But he had to leave, and of course, we know how it panned out in that sector. And today, we're still talking about the megawatts dropping and all the challenges of the power sector. But a very good initiative commissioned by the Vice President yesterday in Aba, the Eyimba city. But what happened in Enugu before the commissioning light up the East. And the Vice President saying that, look, if the Southeast work, then Nigeria will work. A lot of manufacturing going on in the Nnewi industrial zone. Motor parts, including manufacture or assembling of innocent vehicle. So it's good that the federal government is paying attention to the Southeast, ensuring that the challenges manufacturers face in that region are dealt with, including energy. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, the same lead story, cost of governance, 100 government agencies to be scrapped, merged. Above the masthead, FX crisis, CBN sells 9.38 billion yuan in Nigeria, Chinese currency swap. Yes, I've been wondering whatever happened to that deal between Nigeria and China. So it's good to know that currency swap between Nigeria and China is still well and alive. Now, if we look at the Blueprint newspaper, TUC to NLC, your protest not solution to nation's current hardship, submits 15-point proposal as long, short-term measures. National Association of Nigerian Students back out. Federal government wants protests shelved. Police operatives on red alert, talking about the protest by NLC that is taking place today in a number of cities across the country. But even before today's protest by NLC, there were protests in Lagos. Daily Trust newspaper reporting. Protests in Lagos, Osun, Edo over hardship. And this happened yesterday before even today's protest by NLC. Federal government labor meeting deadlocked. IG puts officers on red alert. Warns troublemakers. Begin food importation now. TUC tells federal government. The option of importation of food to crash prices was on the table and was taken out of the table by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he said, well, the government is not going to resort to importation of food. Well, there's no shame in importing food if we're having crisis. You can do it for a short term while putting measures in place to ensure massive production of food. So the government still need to consider all options to ensure that this hardship that is causing a lot of pains to Nigerians across the land is dealt with speedily, because an hungry man is an angry man. So goes the popular saying. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, hardship ahead of NLC rally, protests rock Edo, Lagos, Osun. Now, the story above the masthead.
Just 1 second. We have to do a quick live cross. We'll come back to continue with the newspaper headlines. As you can see on screen, Comrade Joe Ajeri of the NLC addressing newsmen.
Prefer to go and sell it there where they will get better money. So, and nobody's checking even our borders. Check what is happening in Lagos. The customs say they are selling product they seized, and there were about 7 people that died. Have they compensated for such families? Who is responsible for the death of such people? Because of hunger. There's absolute hunger, and you say we should not say we are hungry. So should we keep quiet and die? The answer is no. So that's why we're coming out today.
Now, there are also some people who have the view that this protest shouldn't be coming up at a time when the federal government is already negotiating for a new minimum wage.
This protest is not about minimum wage. You have to understand it. This protest is about hunger. What of those that are not working? The minimum wage, when will it be completed? When will it be implemented? What will be the minimum wage that will remove hunger? The UN said that the poorest man should be fed on $2 per day. That's the poorest. And if you have a family of 6 people, at $2 per day by 6 is $12. In a month, you have $360, which translates to about 700,000 naira. Is that the minimum wage you are talking of? No. Is that what will feed you? On feeding alone. I'm not talking on transportation and accommodation. So what are we saying? Medical. So what are we saying?
So in the meantime, what are the short-term solutions that you are proposing to the federal government that these challenges will
Well, you know, we don't tell them what to do, but we tell them how we feel. There was hunger in the land, but it wasn't this bad until deregulation. And then after deregulation, we proposed all that we needed to. If they had solved the problem of transportation immediately, they would have solved almost 50% of the problem. Because even when you process garri in the village, you need to transport it to town. The expenses you incurred on transportation, you add it to the cost of garri. So the moment they touch PMS, you can't fill your tank with 30,000, 40,000. So the moment they touch it, and we say, okay, CNG buses. These 7-8 months, no one bus is on the street. So we have provided all those solutions. Even the cash transfer, they are still telling us now that they will start the cash transfer. And they were playing politics with it, that they were diverting it to their accounts, some ministers and officials. The cash transfer you are supposed to transfer to individuals, the poorest of the poor, up to now has not been implemented. Tax relief by workers, not done. Almost everything. No state government has paid the wage award. Nothing. So what are we saying? And these are proposals we have made before. So if the proposals you have made before, have not been implemented, what are you going to do? Short-term measures like what? There is no agricultural product right now. You can't even talk of agriculture if you don't solve the problem of banditry. Never. You can't talk of food security if even the silos are not working. So why are you going to save them? They're not even thinking of greenhouses. The shortage of land is not being addressed. You can't have food sufficiency when you have shortage of land. It's not done. And when people can't go to their farm to farm.
So for how long will workers be on the streets making these demands?
After today, we review our situation. Review our situation and decide other steps to be taken. Thank you. Thank you.
Comrade Joe Ajaro there speaking on today's protest, NLC protest in Lagos and Abuja. He's talked about some of the reasons why they've embarked on this protest, and just to mention, they've tagged protests as opposed to being on strike, and it's a warning protest based on the government's promises, or perhaps shall I say failed promises, wage award. He's talked about palliatives it promised, and a number of things that this administration or this government hasn't quite fulfilled.
I mean, very, very apt one there, and I think he was able to enunciate the views. Before I quickly come to you, Mr. Fedi, I mean, he talked about CNG.
Yeah.
And the fact that, so where is the Presidential Committee on the Implementation of CNG? Where are we? What's the conversion be like? Do we have more stations where we can get CNG? I hear probably there's one in Apapa. There's also talk about, NIPCO that's just at the outskirts of town. Well, apart from that, where else is all of, this? How can people, where are the buses even? The CNG buses, how are they working? How are they viable?
Well,
because CNG is very good.
I'm aware that there are CNG buses running in Ogun State.
Okay.
Perhaps Prince Dakpa Abiodun has to show them the way, how he did it, how we can roll out more of such buses across the nation. Because if that is done, at least the cost of transportation can be forced down. It's one of the promises the government made when Labour had that interaction, threatening to go on strike the last time around. So if they've not been able to implement something as supposedly simple, it's not rocket science, as rolling out CNG buses, helping those who have buses to convert theirs to CNG, then what are we talking about?
How many stations even have this CNG? What's the availability as we speak? I know about CNG because I have an automobile that uses CNG, but it's not pervasive. I'm not sure there's any way I've been able to fill my CNG tank in VI.
So where would you usually
So it's
fill?
also at the outskirts of town. Probably when I'm traveling out of town, NIPCO. There's one place around there that's, and I have some in the percent tank, but also the good thing about it is I can use CNG, I can use petrol. So because of that, mostly of the time I'm using petrol. But it's just that sometimes I have the reserve in the CNG, I use that. And it's just a switch button you press. But how many cars have been converted? The last administration talked about the fact that they were going to help people convert their cars for free. What was the end of that? So let's make it possible for us to be able to have more CNG places, in filling stations and the likes and all of that.
Absolutely.
But the more important thing about Joe Ajero, speaking there, is that at least there is confirmation that Labour went ahead with the strike. Despite the disagreement with the Trade Union Congress, despite, the last-minute effort of government to stop Labour from embarking on the strike. Up to yesterday evening, there was a meeting.
To persuade Labour
yes,
out of
by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and others, who tried to stop the meeting, despite the effort by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to remind organized labor that it will be in contempt of court, although Labour said it's not in any contempt. And under the Police Act, the responsibility of the police is to provide protection and make sure that the process is peaceful. So at the end of the day, we'll see, we'll be able to do a general assessment. 62 different bodies, including the National Association of Nigerian Students, said they will not join the strike. But the assessment will be how successful will they be beyond the signaling that Nigerian Labour Congress has done.
Although last minute, the maritime workers also decided to join.
Okay.
Last minute, maritime workers decided to join the
but
protest.
62 others,
Yes.
said they will not be part of it.
Yeah.
Well, if we could just...
Yes, let's just go straight to Business Day newspaper. Yes, foreign investors hit brakes on Nigeria over volatile naira. According to the report, foreign investors are holding off on new investment into Nigeria until the naira finds some stability. Yes, according to the report, foreign investors indeed were coming back to Nigeria when the naira peaked at 1,550 naira to the dollar. And of course, many thought that that is the mark to the market and that will be it. And some investors actually came back, said they are touching their stop brakes because of the volatility, because since then the naira has slumped to 1,665.50 to the dollar, and as such, many investors are having a rethink over $1 billion of foreign inflows greased the foreign exchange market 2 weeks ago after the Central Bank of Nigeria began to push through long-awaited pending reforms. And in the reforms the paper is talking about include the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM, and of course the higher interest rate on treasury bills. Of course, that attracted dollar inflows. But the report says what is happening now that has since been put on hold. A number of investors are already doing a rethink. But if we just look at the foreign newspapers quickly, just the Times of London. I am proof that Britain isn't racist, says Sunak. Prime Minister moves to take heat out of Islamophobia row. Well, the Prime Minister coming out to do what he has to do to douse the tension. And he also cautioned public office holders that, look, they have to be mindful of what they say so that they don't hit the polity with, I'm sure he was referring to Lee Anderson, who made that speech that had now inflamed passions in the UK. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
Well, very quickly, yes, Sunak, responding also to the concerns of the Red Wall voters in the north of London. I explained yesterday what those Red Wall voters are, who say that Lee Anderson is very popular indeed, and it would be good to remain in the party. But there's another story on that page. Sweden finally being admitted into NATO.
Yes.
After the Swedish Prime Minister visited Hungary last week. And, they were
if you put up the Financial Times there, that's the lead story of Financial Times.
They were able to sort out their differences, and the two countries signing arms deal. Finland was admitted, April last year, and now you have Sweden bringing the number of NATO membership to 32, and the Swedish flag will go up officially on Thursday. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.